I used to work on 2020 when I was an intern.
You did?
Yes.
Oh my God, we should go down.
Lawyers like production assistant, like essentially was my job.
We should do an episode of just past jobs.
Oh, I got a lot.
You got a lot of jobs? Raise your hand if you worked at Hooters. No big deal.
You did?
Yeah.
How did you not lead with that? Why would you work at Hooters?
I was SpongeBob SquarePants. Kids eat free on Tuesdays. It's a Wednesday. Welcome to Scoop City, presented by eBay. I'm James Palmer. We got a lot to cover today. We got a Super Bowl rematch. We got some teams we might be panicking about, but we're not panicking about Dianna Russini, the Athletic senior NFL insider, joining me as always on a Wednesday. Dianna, I know you're not panicking about today's episode. Are you excited? Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm a 10 right now about talking anything NFL related, but I feel like this theme of the week has been panic and just everyone's flipping out about all their teams and specific players, but not here on Scoop City. We're going to bring it down a notch. I listened back to our last episode. Chase was wild. Chase was like going hard on a lot of different teams, and it's only week 1, which is not like him, but we're not going to be like him.
We're not going to be like him. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You're right. There was a lot of moments, Diana, that I was kind of like, Chase, halfway through, he was going, is this a hot take? Am I going like above and beyond? Okay, I'll keep doing it. Let's do it. This is what we're... It was great. It was great. Listen, this is what we're going to get to today. We're going to talk about that Super Bowl rematch. We're going to break down the Eagles and the Chiefs, maybe some key injuries, some key guys returning, and how that could look different than what we saw back in New Orleans in the Super Bowl. Also, we're going to talk to Matt Schneidman about about the Packers and that big Thursday night showdown against the Washington Commanders, two teams that are very high up in a lot of people's lists in the NFC, and also the cold truth. Diana, we're going to close this out. Think about panicking. You didn't want to do it, but now you have to do it. Think about a team that you're panicking about for the end of this show that maybe people at home want to hear your insight about why we are panicking. All right, this is what we're hearing. Diana, I need you to take me into what the NFL's thinking was with the Philadelphia Eagles star defensive tackle, Jalen Carter. He ends up hocking a loogie on Dak Prescott, absolutely gross. Gets a game suspension, but not really a game suspension. How did they come to this conclusion?
Well, first of all, the most common response that I've gotten around the league to this suspension is the inconsistencies that the NFL has showed over the last few years when it comes to some of these punishments, right? So the saliva assassin, obviously...
is that yours? Is that original?
No. Someone from Philly gave it to me, actually.
It's pretty sweet, though. Go ahead. Disclosure.
Philly people, you're all so quick-witted. Clever. I think when you just take a look at players that have been ejected during games and historically look back, there's not a lot of examples where a player's suspension counted in the game that they were actually playing in. So the word that's been thrown around a lot is just, was it the timing of it, right? Because this obviously happened early in the game that it just makes you wonder if I don't think this was as clear cut as people wanted this to be. It's a bit of a gray area. It's something new. It's something different. We've never seen a player spit on another player before a snap. So I just think,
by the way.
I know, and we talked about this, after it happened, about how I can tell you, I know 3 teams for a fact that showed that moment on Friday morning to their team. Okay. Right, so it happens on Thursday Night Football. Friday morning, it's on the tape. It's up on the screen during squad. Don't do this, right? Yep. As a lesson. Of course, we saw it in the college level. It happened the next day, which was unfortunate. Why? September.
I don't know. I think it's disgusting. I do think that's what the NFL is trying to do, right? They know the impact they have. They see it happen on Saturday. They know that everybody's watching. They have this really, really strong push to the family-friendly environment that they want to create surrounding the NFL, and this sportsmanship thing is very, very big this season. I feel like I'm discrediting it, but no, it is. The sportsmanship thing is very, very important for the NFL this year. Well, it sounds
corny, right? Because it's like, okay, let's not suck out the fun, everybody. But they definitely have emphasized this in the last few months, and teams have been made aware of this. They've had to watch videos about it. So just the fact that kicked off the season, not to play into the puns, but I don't think it left a good taste in the mouth of the league. We could
Ding.
I
You
got
had
it,
to.
Rob.
You had to. There's no way you avoid it. It's unavoidable. It was right there in
Can't
front of you.
be
I'm
there.
glad you picked it up and you slammed it home. He was fined $55,000, which is essentially a game check, $55,222. I'm going to take this into the game, though, Diana, because him not getting suspended for this game, and again, this is the thing. Does it happen 5 snaps into the game? Does he get a game suspension? If it's in the first quarter, is there a game suspension? It's just like the game did officially start. He hadn't played a snap. What if he played a special team snap? Would he have played in the game? And then, you know what I mean? So, like, it's kind of an interesting breakdown. But I do think if anybody watched that game in Sao Paulo on Friday, Kingsley Suamataia, there we go, the left guard for the Kansas City Chiefs had himself a rough day. A rough one. I mean, it was really brutal to the point to where you saw on important downs, they were putting Khalil Mack inside against the left tackle. You know Jalen Carter is going to line up there. And you know how different this Eagles defense is, Diana, when Jalen Carter's on the field. Dak Prescott said it after the game. We changed our entire game plan and our entire blocking scheme because Jalen Carter wasn't in the game. Him playing in this game is a huge difference maker for the way this game is going to be played up front, because teams are going to keep attacking that left guard spot until something changes there, and that's where we're going to see Jalen Carter.
Someone really smart in my life once told me that the saying is, are the little puppies going to be coming off the porch here for Jalen Carter, right? Because,
Did somebody say that? Yeah.
He's going to be trying to take advantage of these weak areas. And it's not like we don't know what the weak area is, okay? This isn't week 1 or headed into week 1 where we're not too sure. We saw it, right? And so this game plan is going to just be attack right there. It's right in front of them. So, look, I do think – I don't believe Kansas City ever thought Jalen Carter was getting suspended anyway. It's not like they've been game planning, even to wasting time getting ready to see what it would be like without him out there. I think it's fair to say when Jalen Carter's on the field, he is the best player.
Yes.
Without a doubt. And it's you look back, I always go back to his draft process, and you just think back to all the teams that passed on him.
Yeah. I was in Philly that whole week, standing outside the facility waiting for Howie to draft Jalen Carter, and everybody thought they were going to draft Bijan. Which, if you know Howie, they're not drafting a running back in the first round.
No, and if you know Howie, and he made 9 trades in 2025, and you continue to do it, which, as somebody that covers the Eagles as well as you do, and for so many years, I was actually thinking about this in terms of philosophy for Howie. Does he make trades based off need, or do you think he makes trades because he's really trying to think ahead, kind of looking at the landscape of what could happen, right? Because I just, some of these they're not, they don't hit me over the head of like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah. Some say in the building he makes trades because he's just antsy. And you got to tell Howie to hey, relax for a moment. Like
he's just bored?
Yeah, just take a breather. Sit on your hands for a moment, Howie. But it's part of his greatness as well. He's probably the GM that makes the most phone calls in the league. You probably know this, Diana, right? Like on every single player that could potentially be available, he's calling. He's always seeing what's what. He always feels like he has to get a win in every single trade, whether he feels like he comes out on top or not. But I do think they do think ahead. I think Mike Sando had a brilliant article, by the way, on The Athletic this morning that was awesome about the way the Eagles do business and the way that they do. I'm an idiot, so it took me a long time to read it and figure it out and get through it because the finance stuff just was over my head. But it is how Howie thinks. You mentioned Jalen Carter. It's why they got younger on defense. I was specifically told, we got to get rid of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. We got to make some moves. We got to make sure we're planning for this massive contract of Jalen Carter. So some of the moves are, then we can fill it back end and we can move this. He's ridiculous in the way he does it. And, another really good GM in this game, they don't play, but they put the teams together, is Brett Veach. And they thought they were putting together an explosive group around Patrick Mahomes. And then they lose Xavier Worthy to friendly fire across the middle of the field, 3 plays in, Diana. When will we see the receiver Xavier Worthy again as a weapon for Patrick Mahomes? Because my understanding was he was a huge part of that game plan, maybe the biggest part of the game plan on Friday.
Yeah, and the Kansas City way is to keep everything very private, especially injuries. You know how Andy
He's
does
day-to-day?
business there. Day-to-day. They've actually gave a little bit more. It's not just day-to-day. It's more of a week-to-week. And I think the fact that he's not being put on short-term IR is good for now, right? I think those are one of the situations where they have to wait and see how the week progresses as well. But for now, I think that's good. So I think the chances of him playing against the Philadelphia Eagles are obviously very slim, but I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he suits up for Sunday Night Football against the Giants.
Okay. Yeah, I think what happens in a lot of these, to take people like behind the curtain, is you put a brace on the guy, he works out off to the side. Hey, how do you feel moving around? How do you think you'll be in a week? How do you think you'll be in 2 weeks? You're trying to evaluate it, right? Because you don't want to put him on IR. And the Chiefs have done this before. You have till Sunday, essentially, if you wanted to wait to put him on IR or not. And usually what happens is these teams like to go through the process of how's this guy feeling over the next 4 or 5 days. Could it be a 2-week thing like you're saying? I think him not going on short-term IR, I think is a big part of this. I'm going to get out of my soapbox here, Dianna. I have a point I want to make. I didn't tell anybody about this. I didn't tell Mac this. I didn't tell Steven this or not. Did you notice when Patrick Mahomes more or less took that game over on Friday and said, I'm going to put the entire team on my back. I'm going to throw balls while I'm completely horizontal. I'm going to fourth down, throw across my body all the way down the field. I'm going to run everywhere. I'm going to be our leading rusher. When he ran out of bounds against Dante Jackson, and he's about to go out of bounds in just a big shoulder shimmy before he gets out. Did you notice that play?
I noticed it. What is your theory?
Did you receive any text messages after the play? Because I did, for some people in the league.
I did not. Nobody alerted me to, hey, that's shady, or why is that not getting called? Why did someone tell you that they should? Was someone narking Patrick Mahomes to you?
Some people are upset. I got 2 defensive coaches text me going, that's what he does. And what they're saying is and this is a strength of Mahomes, I do think, he manipulates the line of scrimmage and he manipulates the sideline better than anybody. His body control is through the roof. Go back to last year when he had that run against the San Francisco 49ers, right, where everybody's like, I thought he was going out of bounds. And he kind of like stops, looks like he goes out of bounds and runs 37 yards down the field. And Pat said after that, he was asked about it, he's like, I'm always going to go out of bounds. I'm not going to find a loophole. I'm not going to cheat the system. But even Travis Kelce said on his podcast, like, I can see how this is perceived this way. Because the defensive back is lightening up. He's going to go out of bounds, and then he's going to blow me up before he goes out of bounds. One defensive coach texted me and was like, I would tell my guys to light his ass up near the sideline.
Well, that was what I was going to say next. I'm going to guess that most are watching that on tape. And look, they've seen it before. But if it was that obvious and people were talking about it, I bet you we see less of that. And if not, we'll see him just get hit back.
Exactly.
And perhaps get called, right? Because sometimes the league gets involved in this kind of stuff too. And maybe this is one of those things where you see coaches talk to the officials before the game. They give them a little heads up. Hey, keep an eye on this. You're going to see this. I know a lot of coaches who do that where they try to be a little chummy with the officials before, and they give them basically a list of things that they've seen on tape the week before of what the opponent does that sometimes doesn't get called or alerted to. So we'll see who will be narking out Patrick Mahomes. We'll see if the Philadelphia Eagles, which you know that they're on it. I wouldn't be surprised if they've already discussed it probably in their meeting rooms.
How about this? Vic Fangio discussed it, was asked about it during his press conference. And he said, at the end of his quote, but Mahomes is the ultimate competitor, and it doesn't surprise me to see him do that. Philadelphia, to my understanding, is very aware of this, and we know how physical the Super Bowl was with them hitting Patrick Mahomes. Here's the other part I maybe want to point out there, though, is Patrick is as thick as they come. Like, he is a strong dude. Dad strength, man.
That's a really good point to make, because I do think sometimes if you haven't had the opportunity to go to a game and you haven't seen these guys up close, I don't think the camera really reveals Patrick's build, because I've even noticed it too in the locker room. And I'm not saying that like in his towel. I'm just saying like in his uniform when he's standing there and hanging out. He's way bigger than you think in terms of the thickness. Like, I know it's like a funny word, but like he's broad and his legs are big.
Oh, lower half is huge.
His lower half, he's got a lot back there.
Yeah, this is a great discussion. Yeah, so it's going to be something to watch in this game for sure.
I can already see the comments. What if a man talked about your booty? Like,
it is going to be interesting, because I do think, and I'm not dogging Pat in this, I think he's unbelievably competitive. He knows how the rules are skewed towards quarterbacks, and he's using this to his advantage. Like,
correct.
It's how you play football. And some coach I talked to, because I got curious, were like, is he not smart to do this? Like, is he not smart to understand the sideline? And he's won games by getting pushed out of bounds late, and they've gotten an extra 15. So just seeing how this plays out, I think will be interesting.
Before we move on, can we just quickly go back to when they lost the Super Bowl real quick? Mm-hmm. Did you hear anything coming out of there of just how they responded to it, how they reacted to getting lit up on the biggest stage on planet Earth.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's why Travis came back. I truly do. I remember texting with a few coaches on that team before the game going, do you think this is it for Travis? And they were like, I think it might be. And I think he's been pretty open about like the way it happened and the way it went down is a big reason why he's back this year. And I think that's spread throughout the rest of the room. They know that. The rest of the room knows that. And they were just outmatched, like big time, from every aspect of the game. And they tried to bottle up Saquon, and guess what? They threw it all over the yard. I heard Kevin Patullo is going to be very creative in this game. We'll see what ends up happening with that. You got a lot of information in San Francisco, Dianna. There's a lot going on there, even though they got the W. And the training room is full. What do we got? And obviously it's the big one in Brock Purdy. And when a head coach comes out and goes, we may see Mac Jones. You never know. Usually I go, ears are perking up a little bit. Coach brought it up. Maybe we do see Mac Jones. Where are they at quarterback right now?
Yeah, it definitely was one of those surprise injuries. We knew he was dealing with a bit of a shoulder thing, but to hear about the foot injury, which from what I understand is turf toe.
Okay.
Right. So we've seen in the past quarterbacks play with that. Sometimes they get it shot up before the game, right? But I think because it's so early in the season, I think the thought process there is like, let's get him healthy. Let's get him right. Because they do have Mac Jones there. So I can tell you, talking to people in New Orleans, they are planning to see Mac Jones. Like that is how this defense is getting ready, expecting to see him out there. So the injury bug is just it's a little early here for San Francisco, which dealt already with a season last year that just bad vibes, right? Just that dark cloud all year. And it's like here again, early in the season, another injury that we weren't really expecting to see pops up on a Monday to start the week. So look, Brock Purdy is most likely not going to be playing in this game. George Kittle was placed on IR, so he'll be out for multiple weeks. That's something that we expected. Obviously, being put on IR is going to give him a significant amount of time to just get better, get healthy, get right. They know they're going to need him, especially if this team makes it into the playoffs.
Real quick, I just want to interrupt real quick and just say who he's going to miss. He's going to miss this Saints game, then he's going to miss home games against the Cardinals and Jaguars, and I think the reason he's on IR is there's a short week Thursday at the Rams. I would assume he wants to play in that. So keep him out. Okay, keep going.
Correct. And just to let you guys know that's usually how organizations make that call.
Yes.
If you have a short week and if you don't play on the Sunday before that short week, you're not playing Thursday. That's most of the time the case. So
good call.
So for them to just put him on IR just makes the most sense. So look, this is not great for a team that also just cut their third round pick and a kicker in Jake Moody, who, look, I don't think we're going to sit here and argue that they should have kept him. He was struggling significantly. So look, I don't like the way this is starting for San Francisco, who came out with a win week one against a really good Seattle team.
Yeah.
But obviously the injuries are the story of the San Francisco 49ers here early part of the season.
It is. And luckily, Juwan Jennings, all the scans come back clean, right? He leaves with a shoulder injury. And you're right, Dinah, because when I'm looking at this, I'm going, well, if Juwan Jennings is healthy, and he stepped up big time with all the injuries a season ago, which is why he wanted more money, and then if he's healthy, and we saw what Ricky Pearsall did in this early portion of his first game of his second year, after we just kind of write off the first year, thankfully you're alive, Ricky, and that you also get Brandon Ayuk back by what, week 6-ish, 5 is what they're kind of thinking, maybe, my understanding. Then you're fine. But it's like this early portion, you're going, we're really banged up here.
Well, it's the quarterback. It's like, wait, Brock?
Who's had injuries. I mean, most of them have been to the right arm, elbow, multiple times.
All right, so let's talk a little Mac Jones, though.
Okay.
Because this is interesting to me.
Yeah.
I think the defense in New Orleans views him in the same class of like a Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Which you think is a compliment, like a very good compliment, actually, based on what we've seen.
Sam
Darnold won 14 regular season games last year.
Heck yeah.
And had a bit of a market here during free agency. So, look, I think this is going to be a team that's just going to try to clog the middle and force him to throw, knowing that the run game is going to be so essential for a quarterback that just doesn't have a lot of experience. Now, he's in a better system with Kyle Shanahan, no doubt, right? Like,
you think?
This isn't New England. Yeah. And, going back to that draft class, Mac Jones was someone that I think Kyle Shanahan thought very high of. So to see them together, I'm actually excited to see what this is going to look like. Imagine we have a quarterback. No, we're not, but like
no. But I would say, listen, this is an opportunity. I think what you tell Mac Jones if you're Kyle Shanahan, you say, listen, I was going to draft you at 3 overall, and everybody talked me out of it. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, you're like, I don't know this Trey Lance crap.
What you do is you tell him, like, this is all part of a process. Like, this is all part of your quarterback rehab. We've seen it happen with other players, and let's see if you can get out of it, and we'll teach you as much as you can here. We'd love to have you, because I go back to being at Mac Jones' pro day in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
I'm standing there on the sideline, and the guy who's closest of the all coaching group, Sean Payton's there, Bill Belichick's there, Kyle Shanahan is front and center. And I remember standing there because I had nice access there, and Mac is putting on a little bit of a show, one to show his mobility, which a lot of people questioned going into the draft. What they didn't question going into the draft, and I was remembering this morning, is every team I talked to, Dianna, was like, he's the best processor of information in this draft, and it may not be close. That's what Kyle wants. Figure it out as quickly. I'll tell you what you need to see. You see it as quickly as possible and get the ball to where it needs to go. So that was the connection that everybody talked about with Kyle, having the 3rd pick, and he ends up going with Trey Lance, and we know what ended up happening. And there's always been that thing in the back of everybody's mind going, did he really want Mac Jones? Well, now we get a chance to see them together. It's kind of great if we can see Mac Jones take the field and run Kyle Shanahan's offense. And real quick, George Kittle being out, maybe that's a bonus. He's been working with these backup tight ends like crazy, running the second team offense in training camp. And apparently he's got pretty good chemistry with some of these guys.
Yeah, my people did not expect to be out here.
These are my guys.
Too, at the Superdome.
These are my guys.
But they are, and then, we got the other side of it with Spencer Rattler for the Saints, which, again, just having some conversations in New Orleans, they don't think Rattler gets enough credit for what he's doing. And I don't think the San Francisco 49ers are taking this game plan lightly against him, knowing that, they had him throwing the ball a lot last week. I don't think they're going to keep up with that, but maybe they do. I was surprised. I was like, why is he throwing the ball so, like, this is Spencer Rattler here. This is not Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts even, But I think this could be a really interesting matchup, and I'm with you. I'm excited to see the whole Mac Jones, Kyle Shanahan situation. If Kyle Shanahan can get Jimmy Garoppolo to play at the level we've seen him over the years, I have all the confidence that this can happen. We've been talking so much about
Jimmy catching a stray from Dianna.
Oh yeah, Jimmy. I'm sorry, I love you, Jimmy. LA loves you, Jimmy.
They
can
do.
Take that.
Big
I just
time.
wrote about it this weekend. The Rams love them some Jimmy G.
Yes, they do.
But one of the things I think, even coming off Monday Night Football, there's no doubt that Kevin O'Connell is one of the top coaches in football. But when I think about top offensive-minded people, guys that can get the most out of their quarterbacks, Kyle Shanahan is probably the second to me. That comes right to my mind, if not even maybe better at times. So he's the perfect guy to get a quarterback ready.
That's a great point. Oh God, that game Monday night, Kevin O'Connell.
My gosh.
Just don't blink, JJ. It's okay. We got you. Let's set you up to succeed.
A baller.
Just unbelievable. Speaking of young quarterbacks, are we going to see one for the New York Football Giants against the Cowboys? I know for a fact, everybody does, Brian Daboll says, Russell Wilson will be starting against the Cowboys. Do you think there's a chance if things go awry in the second half, we see Jaxson Dart?
I think we're getting close to that time.
I think so too.
The fact that I made a bet with Chase that it was Halloween, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, Halloween's a long ways away by that right now.
Do I not know New York? Do I not know the Giants? What am I? Am I unaware that the head coach and the GM are on the hot seat? What am I thinking? The reason why I predicted that was maybe I took the cheese on this a little bit, but there was, and I hope still, confidence in what Russell was doing with the offense. This is not like he had a bad camp and they were forcing it. This isn't like, well, let's just play the veteran, right? They love this room. They love the way they've been working together. They've been getting Jaxson Dart ready to be a starter. This is not like they're just treating him like a backup. He's going through the scripts. He's doing all the work to get him ready. It's a bit of a fire hose to get him going, to make sure he's ready. So the fact that they're working so hard to get him prepared tells me that they know the time is coming, and we'll see what happens here. And, look at the Giants situation, though. They want to win the game, okay? We know this. Mm-hmm. But, does it help Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen if they lose this game and they have to go It forces them to go to Jaxson Dart. Like, I don't know what the best case scenario is for the Giants here, who have historically struggled against the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm going to go there right now, and I feel awful about this. Do you know what the best case scenario is?
Jameis Winston.
That Russ gets hurt.
Oh.
Then it's just like, then you had to do it. You're forced to do it. You know what I mean? You're forced to. That's what happened with Brian Daboll when he was with Josh Allen.
You're so right.
That he just had to go on the field. And to me, I keep going back to that experience that Daboll had. And only he really knows how it went, and Josh does, obviously. But, like, what worked, what didn't, what did Josh go through that they wish they didn't put him through that year because they didn't want to play him that year, but they were forced to. And then I go to the other guy who runs the offense, and Mike Kafka. And Mike Kafka sat there in Kansas City and watched Patrick Mahomes sit for an entire year and looked at the benefit of that. So both of their experiences, I think, are very interesting about how they handled Jaxson Dart and how their conversations are about him. But I do think, Dianna, like, the one player that this keeps getting tied to is Andrew Thomas, right? Like, I don't think you put in Jaxson Dart before Andrew Thomas is back. I hate to say that because it sounds like you're sacrificing Russ, but it's like your play calling might be different. What you can do with the RPO game and how you work it with Jaxson Dart might be different if you do have that left tackle spot locked in. But I think you're right. I think they just keep checking these boxes privately. The two of them get together and go, did Jaxson do this? Yeah. Did he do that? Yeah. Did we test him with this? Yeah. Did he do that? Okay. He's one snap away already right now if an injury does happen. So
the Cowboys have beaten the New York Giants 15 of the last 16 times they played each other.
Is that good?
Not good. The last time the Giants scored more than 21 points was back in 2021, right? Like, the Cowboys have no problem with the Giants. And I don't know. What better? I understand why Brian Daboll's sticking with Russell Wilson early on because of the point, but this seems like this would have been a good one to put the young guy on there. And I know we reported that the Washington Commanders were preparing to see Jaxson Dart, and I think a couple people were confused. I think people thought that there was a package of plays.
Clear this up. Yeah.
As in, Jaxson Dart was going to be on the field the same time as Russell Wilson, like we've seen in the past with like a Justin Fields, and it's one of those moments. That's not what it was. Russell Wilson essentially runs the same offense as Jaxson Dart, so they would never be on the field at the same time. It's not a package of special plays that way. It was just more. Maybe they just throw him in at the start of the half to just have him start the half just to give him that experience. But that did not happen. And I think there was opportunities for it too, but they chose not to.
Yeah, well, they did that during the preseason. Just threw him in cold for a play. And then again, I think that's all part of the process. And
they'll give them chaos so they're ready on Sunday.
That's right. That's right. All right, coming up, we are going to talk about the Packers and Commanders, a big Thursday night matchup. We got an insider. Break that down. Coming up next on Scoop City, presented by eBay. All right, welcome back to Scoop City on a Wednesday, presented by eBay. James Palmer, Dianna Russini with me, and we have our new co-host, a regular here. A star is born. I'm off the deep end.
Whoa.
It is Matt Schneidman covering the Packers for The Athletic. I went a little overboard there because I'm excited. First question for you, Matt, is this. How many hours have you slept since Mike has arrived in Green Bay, and how many words do you think you've written since the trade has happened?
Well, I've tried this new thing recently where I put my phone on the ground on my rug while I sleep so I don't hear it vibrate, and my sleeps have been so much better than when I put it on my side table and I can hear it vibrate. I don't need to be worried about something breaking right now. Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer. How many words have I written about him? Look, I just give the people what they want, and that's a lot of words about Micah Parsons. He's been phenomenal. He's met with us now 4 times, including his introductory presser, and he said in his intro presser, you guys are going to get to know that I say things that I probably shouldn't say. And for a journalist, for a reporter, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And he hasn't said anything out of line yet.
That's what I need, baby.
But he says things that grab your attention. And in a world where so many athletes, so many faces of teams try to be as politically correct as possible, Jordan Love being one of them, Micah Parsons is not. Like yesterday, he loves Dan Quinn, who used to be the DC, the Cowboys, Packers, obviously playing the Commanders on Thursday night. And Micah was talking about how Dan Quinn always checks up on him, how Dan Quinn tells Micah that his wife misses him, how he wants to see him in Hawaii one day. And then his last line of the answer was, maybe our paths will cross again someday soon. And Packer fans are like, dude, you've been here for 1 week and you already want to play for Dan Quinn again.
Just feeds the beast, man.
Absolutely.
Was there anything? So, like, we all know he had a big personality from seeing him in Dallas, and we know the talent level. Was there anything that you didn't expect from Micah Parsons that you saw either on the field, in the locker room, just observing him the last few days that you're like, I didn't think he was maybe like that?
Not really. I didn't know too much about him, but John Machota, who covers the Cowboys for us, just told me he's a great quote, and he's been that. He's said all the right things. Micah's no rookie to media, has his own podcast, does the Bleacher Report stuff during the draft, so he knows the whole song and dance. He said yesterday, I'm not judged based on my pocketbook. I'm judged based on what I do on the field. I have to come in here and earn the respect of all my teammates, even if I'm the highest paid defensive player of all time. So he's saying all the right things. He's getting along with his teammates. He's one of the guys talking about how if they have 3 or 4 minutes before a meeting, he'll ask someone to shoot hoops. Like, he's become one of the guys, even though he is still Micah Parsons, and Matt LaFleur said he does have an aura about him. So nothing really unexpected. I think we saw a flash of what we're going to see more consistently last Sunday in that beatdown of the Lions. He only played 29 of 65 snaps. That's going to get ramped up probably starting Thursday. And Micah told us after the game on Sunday, he should be full go by the end of this month. And coincidentally, the end of this month is Packers at Cowboys.
He knew it. He knows it. He knows the media. He knows how to spin it, Dianna. He knows how to work it. Listen, you mentioned Dan Quinn, Matt. And I remember getting a couple of texts from people in Dallas last year going, we really missed DQ in the way he worked with Micah. Like, they noticed that in 1 year because Micah is a unique player. And sometimes a player like that, you have to be really impactful in how you coach and connect with him, right? And I remember asking you this question, which was inappropriate, as soon as he got traded, like, hey, how are they going to coach him, Matt? But now that he's been there, what do you think the plan will be in terms of how he moves around, how he's utilized? What does Jeff Hafley want to do? And maybe utilize that football IQ that maybe a lot of people don't know is so high with Micah. What's the plan for how he's deployed, I guess? Is that in place yet?
Yeah, so Jeff Hafley told us last week that he has a bunch of drawings for how to utilize Micah saved up in a closet in his office or somewhere, and he's waiting to take them all out until Micah is fully ramped up. They started to use him in some different ways on Sunday against the Lions. He lined up on the edge. He lined up inside at D tackle. And Jeff Hafley has said, this is a guy, and Hafley says this having watched what he said, were every single one of Micah's 330 pressures in his first 4 years in the NFL. So he said, I've watched so much Micah Parsons tape in the last week, so I don't know exactly how we're going to deploy him, but he said he can win over the tackle, over the guard, over the center, as a stand-up linebacker. So I think you're going to see him used in all those ways as he gets ramped up. But in that limited workload on Sunday, we still saw a little bit of the variety of moving him around, using him inside, using him on the edge. Micah was asked yesterday when we talked to him, as we record this on Wednesday morning, he was asked about what he likes about moving around. And he said, just finding the best one-on-one matchups. He said, look, I know fans and people want to watch the Godzilla King Kong matchups, what he called them, the Micah Parsons versus Penei Sewells, the Micah Parsons versus Lane Johnsons. But then he gave one of my favorite quotes of him so far. He said, sometimes you got to match up against basically their worst player. You got to see if the pups want to come off the porch. So they're going to find whatever matchups free him up and create one-on-ones because, look.
What does that mean?
That means the pups are the worst offensive linemen, and he wants to see if they're ready to bark too, in addition to.
They want to come out and.
You know what it is? The little baby doggies, they just sit by the window.
Well,
they don't come out because they're scared.
Yeah, I know what a pup is, but I just didn't know the analogy of coming off the porch. Is it like, do they want to play with the big dogs, I guess? They want to come out to the... Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
There you go, James. Yeah. But I think...
I was really hoping you guys were impressed with my puppy.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
It was a good dog analogy.
I'm very good. I'm good at the dog. I don't know why. It's just that God gave me a gift.
I think just to put a bow on that.
Well, I don't want to take away what the Packers have going before, because Matt, we were talking about what the Packers are going to be before Micah even got there. So the story's been Micah, but what Green Bay has put together and the expectations that they had coming into this year were already high. he just was the cherry on top of this whole thing. Just headed into this game against the Commanders in terms of the strength. What do you think that is for the Packers against this Washington team?
Right now, the Packers' strength is their pass rush, I think. And I think there was a stat that says this is the youngest team versus the oldest team in the NFL, so that's another thing to watch. But the Commanders' offensive line was fine against the Giants. I know the Giants have a really good defensive line. I think the Commanders in 41 pass blocking snaps had 5 pressures allowed, 2 sacks, whatever. But obviously, whenever you're playing the Commanders, it's can you keep Jaden Daniels in the pocket? And Jeff Havlicek talked about it yesterday. He said, look, this guy is unbelievable. He can dice you up from the pocket. He can get out and run. So the Packers last year, when they played guys like Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson the first couple weeks of the season, they used kind of what they call mush rushes to contain. They didn't do all these fancy stunts and exotic pressures and rushing all out. They basically just power rushed to mush the pocket and contain these mobile quarterbacks from getting out. They're fine allowing your occasional 5-yard scramble, but they don't want to do anything that leaves the defensive line susceptible to all these holes. Now, Micah was asked yesterday, along that line, do you have to pick and choose your spots as a pass rusher, when to go all out, when to maybe contain? And he said, basically, there's no picking and choosing for me. Jaden knows I'm different. He's used to going up against 255, 260-pound D linemen. He said, this thing, 245, 250. He said, it's not built like the engines of the 80s, basically saying he's a horse-powered, high-powered new car engine who can beat Jaden Daniels to the edge. Micah said nobody's beating him to the edge, so maybe he won't rush to contain, but it would be wise if the Packers did, so they don't let Jaden Daniels kind of just take over this game.
Man, I wouldn't use a car analogy, Matt. Dianna, I would use it looked like National Geographic when he came through the pile and he was chasing down Jared Goff. It was like a cheetah chasing a gazelle across a prairie. I wanted just to hear the narration there of the cheetah gets his prey. You know what I mean? Like in the British accent or however it happens, and Micah chased him down. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that, Matt, like how it goes down, right? Because they did such a good job of moving Jaden off his spot, putting him outside and letting him do that against the Giants. Really, really good pass rush up front. I know this is blasphemy in this conversation, but I'd like to ask you a question about Jordan Love. It's just somebody that's not talked about in Green Bay apparently anymore. You don't have to write about him anymore. But what did you see in week 1 when I talked to people around the league going, this might be the year the jump happens? What have you seen from the way he runs this offense that's balanced, has weapons, that might be different in the way he plays, and maybe we see that Thursday night against Washington?
Yeah, a shameless plug for my podcast, The Tundra, with John Kuhn, but we talked about this at length this week, and my main take on this is, and he showed this on Sunday, I think Jordan Love is a quarterback who can carry the Packers with his right arm. But the Packers are built in a way that he doesn't have to. If you think back to 2023, Jordan Love had 18 touchdown passes, 1 interceptions in the last 8 games of that regular season. And then he had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Cowboys in the playoffs. Last year was obviously uneven. His footwork was sloppy. He made some bad decisions. Packers couldn't catch a pass. He was injured basically the whole first half of the season. But Matt LaFleur still told me in the second half of the year, he thought Jordan Love was playing the best football of his career. The numbers weren't as gaudy as they were in 23, but he was making the plays that he needed to. Game manager oftentimes is viewed as a derogatory term. I don't think it is that. And I'm not saying Jordan Love's a game manager, but he is able to execute, I think, when healthy, pretty well what the Packers need him to do. So 16 for 22, however many yards he threw for on Sunday, 2 touchdowns, that got the job done. He played really well in what he was asked to do, but with the Packers running game with Josh Jacobs, they ran the ball last year more than they ever had under Matt LaFleur. Running game wasn't great on Sunday, but it should pick back up. Josh Jacobs said yesterday it normally takes a running game, 4 weeks to get going in the NFL. So the running game, the Packers defense, they probably have one of the best defenses in the league. That's why I don't think Jordan Love is going to win MVP. Might be in the conversation, but he's not going to have those gaudy numbers, even though he's capable of it, because the Packers, on a consistent basis over the long run, probably don't need him to play like that to win football games.
He's Jalen Hurts. Apparently, he's going to get the Jalen Hurts this year, Dianna. Team's too good. Teams do good.
I think they'll take that.
Yeah.
I think they'll take the Jalen Hurts treatment if that's what it is. Although I feel like we can have a separate conversation about how we really feel about Jalen Hurts now, right? No? Are we? I think
I picked him as my MVP this year.
Oh, that's true. You did. I forgot. That's where you were going with that. I forgot.
I was just trying to.
All right. So just in terms of needs at this team, I know you and I talk a lot about, trying to see what moves they're going to make, obviously with the trade deadline coming up here in just a few weeks. And we're early on this conversation, but do you think that there's anything that they're going to be combing over the next few weeks to just really go all in, knowing that this team has a possibility of making a really deep playoff run?
I'm not sure any move they make from here on out would be more all in than the move they just made a week and a half ago. So look, maybe there are going to be some depth pieces. They're
tired. They're like, that's enough movement.
Exactly.
For us.
That's enough all in for us. The cop-out answer is there are going to be injuries. There are going to be guys who maybe don't play as well as they thought, and they may look to fill some holes on the depth chart. I'd be more interested, and I know, Dianna, you and I have talked about this, if the Packers are going to be sellers, not because they're bad, but because they have too many pieces. And I'm just floating this out there. I'm not saying I've heard anything concrete, but let's say a guy like Romeo Doubs. They're probably not going to re-sign him this offseason. They just signed Christian Watson to a 1-year extension. He'll probably be back around week 6. It's a bargain move for the Packers. They kind of did the same thing with Jordan Love before he had started a game. They signed him to a 1-year, expensive extension for a guy who hadn't played, but it was basically a win-win. If he popped off, the Packers would be financially secure, but Jordan gives himself some more guaranteed money if he, doesn't play well. Kind of the same thing with Christian Watson. I don't know the exact terms of the deal, but he's working his way back from an ACL. He'll probably be back some point before the midway point of the season. So he's going to be here not only this year, but also next because of this extension. Jaden Reed is under contract for this year and next. Dontavian Wicks under contract for this year and next. Matthew Golden, their rookie first-round pick. And you think back to last year when Romeo Doubs was suspended for a game for reportedly skipping practice because he was unhappy with his role. You have to wonder, even though everyone's saying all the right things about how that's in the past, if when it comes time to make a decision on whether to pay him or not, whether to give him a second contract or not, maybe that's still lingering in the back of their mind. So if a team like the Chiefs or a wide receiver needy team in the middle of the season says, we'll give you a 3rd or 4th rounder, not that that's what they would get, for Romeo Doubs, would the Packers say, I don't think that that's what he's worth, but would the Packers say, sure, instead of, risking getting a 6th or 7th round comp pick in free agency, let's give him up now? That's a risky thing to do because Romeo's very well liked in that locker room, and he was at the quarterback's wedding this summer. Like, the quarterback likes him. You don't want to annoy the quarterback. But if Romeo plays well, if they're 6-1, 7-0, whatever it is, I don't know you want to mess with that room. So that when we talk about the trade deadline and the Packers, that's the only thing that really pops into my mind, and I'm not even sure how realistic that is.
Yeah, what usually happens in those situations, guys, and I hate to say it, it's like you trade one of them away, and then all of a sudden 2 guys get injured the next 2 weeks, and you go, God, I wish this room was deeper. And it always comes back and bites you in the butt. Before you go, real quick, give me a score for Thursday night.
Yeah, I've said 24-21 Packers. I think it's another game where the Packers defense really wins them this game. I know the Commanders are old, but they've got enough experience with Luvu and Vaughn and Bobby Wagner on the defense to, I think, cause some trouble for this Packers offense. But I think the Packers move to 2-0, and then the talk of them being a legitimate contender really ramps up. Then you look, week 3, they have the Browns, so who knows how many games the Packers might win to start this season.
Matt, appreciate you joining us. Coming up, Dianna, on Scoop City presented by eBay, Jacob Robinson's going to tell us about what he's terrified of, or maybe he's got some scaries about what's going on in Baltimore. Who should we be panicking about? We'll give you our picks next on Scoop City. All right, it's Scoop City again on a Wednesday. James Palmer with you, Dianna Russini. We are presented by eBay. We're closing things out here like we usually do on Wednesdays, where we get a video sent to us, Dianna, that we don't really know what's going to be said, but we kind of have a gist of it. And Jacob Robinson from the Scoop City newsletter is going to send us this video here about somebody, a team, that he is panicking about already after week 1.
Hey, Diana and James. Good to see you guys again. Hope you enjoyed week 1. I sure did. Remember my turnaround pick for 2025, the Jaguars? They're 1-0. Today, I want to talk to you about the team I'm most panicked about after week 1, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are a bit like a bad zipper on a winter coat. When you need them most, they don't close. And this has been a theme throughout John Harbaugh's career. And I don't think these are fluke events like Mark Andrews dropping a ball, Isaiah Lakely stepping out of bounds, or Derrick Henry fumbling in the fourth quarter. There's a lot more to it than that. And I pulled up some stats that'll explain why. Since 2022, Mike Sando found that the Ravens have lost 6 games where they led by 9 to 16 points in the fourth quarter. No other team has lost more than twice in that time span. John Harbaugh's Ravens, in games that they have an 80% chance of winning, they only win 80% of those games. Coaches like Andy Reid, Sean McVay, and Sean McDermott are all at or above 88%. What happens in Baltimore that's costing them these games? I wanted to know for today's newsletter, which has a deep dive in all the stats here. But I found a couple anomalies and things that stood out to me. First, the Ravens tend to take their foot off the gas. Wake up, John Harbaugh. It's not the 90s anymore. Teams are going for it on fourth downs. Teams are pushing it in the fourth quarter when they're trailing. And you haven't caught up. The Ravens play one of the most conservative play styles in the fourth quarter with a 18.9% attempt rate on fourth downs. That's well below the league average of 32%. They're comfortable. They have a lead. They're typically winning near the end of games, and they just want to coast, hand the ball off. That doesn't work against stacked boxes, as we saw in Buffalo, especially when you're not willing to go for it on fourth down. But the biggest problem facing the Ravens has been their defense. Through the first 3 quarters of games in the past 3 seasons, the Ravens have been the league's best defense by almost every metric. In the fourth quarter, they become the league's worst. Here's a few stats that illustrate that. Baltimore, in the fourth quarter, the Ravens allowed the most points per drive, the most yards per play, and rank dead last in EPA. In other words, the league's best defense becomes the league's worst when it matters most. So Diana and James, I gotta turn it to you. I'm panicked about my Super Bowl pick, the Baltimore Ravens, because I don't think John Harbaugh puts his team in a position through conservative play calling and bad defense to win in the fourth quarter of games. What are you most panicked about for week 2?
I didn't expect that coming. I did not expect that. I'm not nervous about the Baltimore Ravens, but apparently Jacob is. He's got some numbers to prove it. I don't know. Do you see that, by the way, before we put ours out there?
I think the concern is more about what we're talking about in December and January. I think that's where the panic sets in, right? Can you do the job here? My thought is maybe they got it out of their system. They just did the early bomb, and maybe they're just going to take off from here. So we'll see how they regroup. But those are one of those losses. I think that hits a team hard. I'm excited to see how they're going to bounce back from this. But for me, the team that I'm panicked about because of who I saw on the field.
Cold hard truth. Bring it to me.
Zach Wilson is playing in week 1 and no one's injured. And he's in Miami because the game is so out of control that they're pulling their starting quarterback. That puts me in a very panicked mode, right? Mm-hmm. Because we knew headed into the season, we had heard enough about Miami.
Yep.
The culture there, some of the issues they had with the players. It just, things did not seem like they were on the right track, right? But then you want to give the team the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're able to galvanize them, gather them, get it. Sometimes they have these experiences during training camp where it's kind of them against the world. Like maybe they were going to use this to motivate them coming out here against Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. To me, on paper, that's a win. At least I thought until I saw Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen's offense and never really gave him the credit that I think he deserves now that we saw what that looked like. But that being said, this defense had all summer to prepare for the Colts. And the fact that Daniel Jones and this offense did what they did with it was too easy. That I am just concerned from the top down with this Miami Dolphins team. It is not going to get any better. Obviously, we've heard McDaniel talk about the cultural reset. But for Tua, it has to be better. This was a team that had a really good offense last year. This isn't like they were bad. They've had some success here. So What are they? What do they look like? They've got a chance to bounce against a Patriots team that struggled against the Raiders. But if they lose to the Patriots, sound the alarms. I have major concerns for their head coach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's. What's the other thing that's come along with this, Diana? It's been, what's the name we're hearing already after week 1? Who's trading for Tyreek Hill?
I mean, we talked about this on Scoop because you asked me, you're like, hey, are they trading Tyreek? I said, they tell me they're keeping him. There's no plans of doing that. Tyreek is such a crucial part of this offense. They need him. And the smoke has started already, not because I actually believe they're engaging, but because everyone's looking at the situation like, well, they're probably not going to be great. We'll see him get moved, and we'll see a Devontae Adams kind of situation, perhaps. For now, they're not moving him, but like you said, as we get closer to this trade deadline and we see when the Miami Dolphins, fall by then, we'll see. Remember, the trade deadline's first week of November, just to remind you.
Exactly, and it's there for a reason, right? Teams are still going to take time to evaluate if the guy's on their own roster already. So people bring up Pittsburgh. Maybe that compliment to DK is already on the roster. We saw what Calvin Austin did the first week. I mean, maybe they don't need to make a trade. Teams are still going to go and take some time with this, but it is one to keep your eye on. All right. I'm going to go with the cold, hard truth that my team I'm panicking about is the Detroit Lions. Oh, boy. In a very different situation than the Miami Dolphins, right? I don't think the entire season's going to bottom out, but they have a divisional loss already on their schedule to the Packers. We knew it was going to be maybe a slow start with the 2 new coordinators, even though they had been preparing for the loss of Ben Johnson for some time, right? They've always been curious about when that's going to happen and know they have to prepare for it. Johnny Morton comes in now. And I think this game against the Bears is now Ben Johnson versus Johnny Morton. Like, you could have 2 divisional losses to start the season off. And then who do you play week 3? The Ravens. So there's a chance the Lions could be 0-3 to start the season. Like, I'm not saying they are going to be, but I'm looking at this going, the coordinators need to find their footing. We know that they just more or less just swarmed Jahmyr Gibbs, the Packers defense, which is one of the fastest in football. But they couldn't really get moving offensively. Jared Goff had some of the numbers that resembled his rookie year. Is this something to panic about? Because we know the windows now, Diana, and we know the talent is there. But you get yourself behind the 8 ball this early in the season, it's something to be nervous about. And the guy that nobody really talks about, I think, is the loss of Frank Ragnow running that offensive line and retiring.
I'm so glad you said that, because as you were painting the picture of losing these coordinators as well as assistants, right? It's never just.
It's not like they left on their own. They took people with them.
Right? They took exactly.
They took more than their Jerry Maguire goldfish. They took some Renee Zellwegers with them as well.
But they've got 3 new offensive linemen, including 3 rookies. Mm-hmm. Okay, I just think there's a bit of a transition period. It stinks that they have a monster schedule here, and these are going to be crucial. And to have to face Ben Johnson again stinks. But I just think you have to look at this. I'm not as panicked as you. I get why you are. But I just think once they sort this out and figure out what they want to be, how this is going to look, I think they'll be fine. Because I do believe in Jared Goff.
I totally do too. And I agree with you. And I think they will sort this out. But my panic is the start of the season. Because you have this Bears game. Then you have the Ravens. Then you do have the Browns, which we saw Myles Garrett blow up another AFC contender in Cincinnati. But after the Browns, you have Cincinnati and Kansas City. You could be in a difficult spot within, where your whole schedule lies in the first half of the season. Fascinating. We'll see.
The advantage that Johnny Morton has is Ben Johnson's learning too, right? Like everyone's learning. I know we're giving Ben a lot more credit because he's been such a big name and he's so respected. Mm-hmm. But as we saw on Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings in their loss at home to open up a season, there's a learning curve. And I feel like I've turned into this person after I had children where I'm like, everyone be patient. Like I've turned into their preschool.
You're so level-headed. Like, you're not like a hair on fire type of mom. You're like
James,
very
you've known me a long time. I am hair on fire at all times, all the time. And I would like to not be. But that's just what I am.
I don't know. Maybe we're seeing a new Dianna Russini in season 2 of Scoop City. I like it. Maybe we're getting more zen. I don't know. You never know. Well, Diana, it's been a wonderful day. It's been a wonderful Wednesday. I will see you when I see you. I'm not sure. Well, we got a big interview coming up.
We do.
Catch that on Thursday, Scoop City. For Dianna Russini, James Palmer, Matt Schneidman was with us too, who covers the Packers for the Athletic. I appreciate him joining us. And for everybody home, in the words of Dianna Russini, namaste.